what a cool thing to have Corey on the record. He's a freak of nature. I'm fascinated.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
Jason, good to see you, man. How's things?
Things are great.
Yeah, I see. Just before we started, you said you got the turntable pressing of the new record.
Yeah, they sent me exactly that, the test pressing of the vinyl. And the irony is that I had to buy a turntable to check out my own record.
So is this going to start your evolution into vinyl now, or are you done? You just bought the record, did the turntable, now you're finished?
Well, I used to have an insane vinyl collection when I was younger, like shelves and shelves full of vinyl. I would inherit everyone's like leftover vinyl. I just take everything. And I don't know where any of that is. When I moved to America from Toronto, I think I gave boxes to every friend. Like, here's 2 boxes for you, 2 boxes for you. So I don't remember, and I don't know who has the vinyl or where it is. So that's kind of sad, but
Yeah.
vinyl takes up a lot of space and it's very heavy.
Yeah, I love it, man. I got back in 2017 and I went home and my dad had about 40 records I had as a kid. And I started pulling them out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And you just did that thing on Loudwire with your favorite records from the 80s. We're about the same age. And I mean, I think I either had or wanted all of those records.
The big records,
Yeah.
It just so happens that when I was a teenager, those were the big deal records, I tried to sneak a few in there from the mid 90s, but they hit me back and said, I don't think you were a teenager when this came out. I'm like, oh, they busted me.
That's so funny. I forgot that you were from Toronto because growing up in Buffalo and living more than half my life now in Detroit, I can usually spot a Canuckian right away, but you don't have that tone in your voice.
Not anymore. I mean, I left Canada in 1992, maybe. So we've had enough years where I haven't deliberately tried to eliminate the Canadian, Mercedes and sorry and all that stuff.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, about
Exactly. But man, when I hear it, I hear it right away too. I'm like, you're Canadian.
Yeah, you can spot it right away. And I guess, being with Five Finger and those guys are from Las Vegas. And I mean, obviously not Zoltan, but it's but yeah, I thought that you were just from the States for some reason. So you say you left in 1992. So your musical, likes and stuff must have been developed by then. Did you grow up on Rush and Triumph and all that stuff?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think, I actually think that's maybe what gives me a little bit of a different approach when it comes to writing and record making and stuff. Cause I grew up in an analog time period where your favorite bands were like really all playing on the record. No computers, right?
Yeah.
And so you would fall in love with Neil Peart or Peart or Alex Lifeson, like you could really hear the individuals playing on the records. And that's an approach that I'm very fond of.
Now you got the record coming out. The record's out, but the vinyl and all this stuff comes out at the end of September, October or something.
Correct. October 25th is the street date for the vinyl and the CD.
Okay. Yeah, so I was talking with Lee from Pop Evil the other day, who's a little bit younger than us, but not much. And there's people nowadays, and Lee kind of alluded to the fact he's kind of one of them, that they're not crazy about the record thing, but they just put out singles here and there. Are you still like a record guy and want the full package in front of you?
Kinda,
Yeah.
Look, in Death Punch, we released record, and I know that it's the model has changed a little, and I know that putting out a song every month or whatever is a better way to keep people engaged. But I also think that it kind of ruins the catalog. When you look at your favorite band, they have a catalog and you're like, oh, I love that third record's my favorite, or they got a new singer on this record or whatever. I mean, I don't I think it's confusing to the fans when you spit out a song, EP, full record, spit out, like it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make a nice, clean catalog.
Yeah. Yeah, you go out on the EP tour or the single tour.
Yeah, and maybe my stubbornness will be overruled at some point, but I always people are like, maybe we do an EP to get us to the set. I'm like, no, no, we'll do a whole record and we'll finish our records. And I don't understand, like, let's just make a whole record. And even, I mean, I'm a hard worker, so I'm not afraid of, putting the time in.
Yeah. And I guess nowadays when you want to make a whole record, they consider that old school.
Yeah, kind of. But, like I said, in the last band, we would just come off tour, take a couple weeks break, and then go in and start another record, and and we'd finish it, and we'd be like, it is what it is. Let's keep plowing.
Now with Flat Black, do you approach the writing differently? Do you have more do you have more say over it? What is the dichotomy as opposed to Five Finger?
Well, it's exactly that, really. I'm kind of a creative guy in general, and we're in my house right now. This is my home studio, and the only thing I really care about is making music. And I've told people this before, but I only sort of hear music one way. Like, to me, there's like right and wrong, and when something's wrong, I just can't let go of that. Um, so certainly in Flat Black, it doesn't, I kind of have final say if I want to use that power. But again, I created a band with guys that I thoroughly vetted
Mhm.
and felt chemistry and felt the desire to include their musical contributions. Like, I picked guys that I wouldn't have to avoid.
Mhm.
you know uh so it's been fun. I'm looking forward to the next record. I mean, keep in mind, this record was finished January of 2023, so it came out July 19th, 2024. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
year and a half old.
I was going
uh
to ask you why the delay like that?
well uh because we made the record on our own with no record company, no management, no funding. I mean, we just did it here. And so, you make songs, you put the band together, you finish the record, everything's done. Now we have to look for a manager. And then when you get management, then we have to look for a label. And I took many dinner meetings and flew to LA and was meeting people, and then we signed the deal. And the actual contract could take up to 6 to 8 months to
Mm,
finish. Like, you don't think about that stuff, but just because they're like, yes, we'd like to sign you. Okay, well then 6 weeks go by, 7, 8 weeks go by, and then you get an initial draft of the contract, and then it goes to our lawyers, and then they revise it and make changes. Then it goes back to them, and that takes months and months. Um, Not because it's complicated, just because everyone that has to work on a contract and agree to it, they're busy working.
right.
The lawyer has other things. The label has other bands, other campaigns, other releases. If anything, we were sitting around waiting, like, impatiently, but you can't do anything about it. It's just the way it goes. So once we actually signed to Fearless, they were like, look, it's July, August right now, and we typically like to release records for Christmas or records for summer. And if we try to put your record out for Christmas, we only have like a month to get it together. And I said, well, then screw that. Let's not do that. And it's like the record was too important to everybody to just throw it out there with no visibility. We had zero monthly listeners. I mean, you can think about that. Zero monthly listeners. There was nothing. We had ground zero. So I said, well, okay, let's try to develop an audience for this. And so we put out a couple songs, go on tour, couple more songs, more touring. And then that got us to here. I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but that got us to here where the record was out on top of sort of 5 songs already being pre-released.
No, I mean, ramble on. It makes my job a lot easier, I suppose. I was going to ask you, so was the biggest challenge of starting over maybe the legal stuff?
No, the biggest challenge was finding the right people.
Okay.
Finding the right people. The band specifically. Uh, I know what it's like to be in a long-term band, and if you're lucky enough to have success, I know what kind of interactions have to happen to sustain a long-term thing. And so finding the right people is paramount, and I was very specific about what I was looking for, and it took a long time. Specifically, Rex, the singer. We went through, I mean, I started working with our drummer first, Rob, and it took a couple of years of looking at singers to pick the right guy. And that was very frustrating. And to be honest, there was many moments where I was scratching my head going, maybe this isn't meant to be. I don't like, this is so frustrating. You would find somebody, get your hopes up, listen to them, fly them into Vegas. They can't sing, or
Mm.
they show up drunk. That happened. I'm like, what the hell? You know, this is unworkable. So that happened so many times. I was like, maybe I'm not meant to be doing this anymore. Maybe I should just get a yacht and go live in the Caribbean or something.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. So how about, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of a layman when it comes to this kind of stuff. How is it, back in the day, obviously there was like music rags and stuff like that, but how do you go about putting a band together in the 2020s? Just the word,
Well,
just people you know, or
fortunately, I have a history, and I have a lot of relationships
Hmm.
in the music business as a result of my prior situation. So it wasn't starting from a complete dead lift. I had some industry type people that I've known for a very long time that are, upper level guys, and I just put the word out. That's how if you want to get anything done, you reach out. So every musician, every manager, agent, you name it, anyone I knew from the industry, I was just hitting them up going, I'm trying to put a new band together and I need a singer. I knew that was going to be the hardest part. And I got all kinds of names and numbers and Instagram profiles and stuff. And so really that's it. You reach out and you ask for help. And and if you have a good relationship with people, they usually try to help.
yeah, and finding a singer is one thing, but then you can look at Instagram profiles all day long, but you don't know if you're going to be able to hang out with them for 20 hours a day or so.
Very true. Very true. That's why when selecting Flat Black, I spent time with guys, like come stay at the house. Let's try to write something. Let's jam. You can't see the rest of my studio here, but there's a whole other side to this room that has a drum kit and a PA system and everything. So I wanted to play with people to see what it's like. Not Spotify and Instagram can be very misleading
Mm.
when you
Is
put
that,
people.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, you go ahead. I'm rambling.
Oh, no, no, you're fine. I was gonna say, is that the studio at the beginning of one of the videos that you were? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Back early on, um, when we started to make real money, um, I paid off all my debt and just started saving. I didn't really buy anything fancy. The only thing I splurged on in my lifetime was this studio, um, because the studio is a tool, and the tool allows me to build stuff, and that to me is moving forward. I
You
don't
know,
need I don't need some handmade rug from Egypt, and there's only two of them left, and one's made from unicorn hair. I don't need that.
do you? One of my friends has a studio just like that. Do you rent it out for anybody else, or is that just primarily just your toy?
I have I have let, like, my co-producer Chris Collier, um he spent years over here, so he would say, I need to do a reamp or a mix or something, come on over. Or I had other artists come work with me up here, but that's for me co-writing with them. And but I don't really, the wife doesn't want the public in the house. Yeah, this was meant for me, you know.
Yeah, I got you. So, how do you get Corey Taylor on your record? Just reach out, like you said.
No, Corey, I went to Los Angeles in the beginning in 2020. I went to Los Angeles to work with one of my Canadian buddies, a fellow named Jay Rustin.
Oh yeah, Jay. Yeah, from right across the river here. I know. Jay.
Yes,
Yeah.
super talented guy. Did a lot of cool records, with Avatar and so Stone Sour and stuff. Anyway, super talented guy, and he just said, "Look, I don't know what you're doing, but if you want to come and kick around some music sometime, come to LA and we can work together out of his studio." So I was like, "Yeah, sounds good." And this is the part about trying to rebuild is you kind of just have to chase every lead. Try this, try that, try that. So I went to LA just to muck around with him, and I was working there for the week, and then all of a sudden Corey texted me, and I didn't know Corey, so I assumed that Jay gave him my number or told him Jason Hook is here, and he will give me his number. So we started texting back and forth. Very funny guy, and we got along right away. And he said, "Well, what's your plan?" And I said, I'm gonna put a new band together, but right now it's just me. I don't have anyone else, and I'm just trying to assemble some music to get started." They said, "Well, listen, send me what you have, and if you need somebody to write with, I'd be happy to help you." And I was like, "Oh boy, I just love what he does. He's just such an incredible artist." And so I was like, over the moon. I'm like, "Yes." So we did 5 songs together.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He really helped me out. Just a solid dude. And when it came time to completing the record, I asked him, I said, "Would you be comfortable with me using your vocal on Nothing to Some?" Because he sang all the songs and I have them.
Mm.
But I don't know. But I think the arrangement was that he would help me write stuff. We would co-write some stuff, finish my tracks. And then when I found a singer, they would re-sing them. Right. But, um, but I just thought, what a cool thing to have a Corey on the record. I mean, obviously, it just sounds amazing, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, he said yes, and that's the end of it, really.
Yeah. He's so versatile. He writes all over the place.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature. This guy. I'm fascinated because he writes. It's very natural for him. He's very prolific. He writes songs, blah 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 blah. I don't think he has a home studio. He does everything on the iPhone, and when he has the idea and he's finished, it's done. He goes in and sings it top to bottom, 1 or 2 takes tops. Doesn't labor over anything. It just keeps moving forward, moving forward.
Yeah, I think
It's
he told me that in his last record, it was 1 or 2 takes, and that was it. He's so prepared when he goes in the studio. This is a really stupid question, but I'll just throw it out there. Was there any chance he was going to be the singer of your band?
in my dreams.
Okay, really stupid question. Like I said,
I woke up going, oh. Um, Look, I of course I had fantasies of that, but here's the truth. Corey Taylor does not need me. Period. He's busy and he's got a lot of successful things happening. Um, so I was grateful to just have him help me and then contribute his vocal for the record.
and what other projects have you worked on in the past several years that we may have heard about or that we may not have heard about?
Well, there was a point in time where I was doing instrumental records. One of them came out in 2007, maybe.
Yeah, the Safety Dunce record, great name by the way.
Thanks. I'm a fan of play on words. And that, of course, was taken from Safety Dance from Men Without Hats, if from the dinosaur era, like we are.
Yep.
Um, of course, and of course, the Flat Black record is kind of the same thing, where it's Dark Side of the Brain is taken from the Pink Floyd record, right?
Yeah.
One of the other names I had for the record was Appetite for Perfection.
I don't know where you could have come up with that one.
Yeah, right. Um, okay, repeat the question. I was rambling. I sidetracked.
Is there any other projects you've
Oh,
done last 4 or 5 years?
thank God you remember.
Yeah.
Thank God for your memory. Um, well, okay, so the follow-up to Safety Dunce what I did a second solo album that's never been released. It's sitting in a folder on a hard drive. It's called American Justice. And I mean, it's so old now. I don't even know what to do with it except for I might talk to Fearless and see if there's anything that any vision they might have for it. Probably not,
Mhm.
because instrumental music just doesn't perform anywhere close to what proper songs do, you know?
Right.
So it might be just the kind of thing where press up 100 copies and sell them on the website or something. I don't know.
What
But
is have you been working with anybody else outside of Flat Black? Or some kind of saying it did? Is there any
oh,
project?
I did well over the pandemic. I had Bad Wolves over here. We worked on a couple songs. One of them wound up on the last record. I think it was called Turn It Down. I wrote a song with Dorothy that I wrote two songs with Dorothy. They used one of them. It was called A Beautiful Life, and that opened up um, that record. I can't. I think she's on the. That was the record before the last record, maybe
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
something about the Holy Ghost.
Yes. Gifts from the Holy Ghost.
Yeah,
That's right.
I co-wrote. I have a friend of mine from Canada, Johnny Hetherington, from a band called Art of Dying. We wrote a whole bunch of stuff together. He actually used one of the songs, and I don't even remember what it was called. I don't remember. Long Shot,
Mm.
maybe. So yeah, I mean, over during the pandemic, after I had sort of had nothing to do, I was just trying everything, you know.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, a couple more things here before we cut you loose. I've always been curious as to your guitars with like the military ranks on them. What is that all about? I don't know if I ever heard you talk about that.
Well, back in 2009 or 10, I, you know, all guitar heroes that we like Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen and Zach Wild and whoever else, like they really made a visual, um, like identifiable guitar from the paint job,
Mhm.
right? That's not new, but I thought I really would love to have that, but trying to come up with something unique is very difficult. That something that hasn't been done, and but I thought if you put the time in and figure this out now, then it lasts forever. So you have to like stop everything, focus on what does this guitar look like? Because I wanted to have something that was, if you saw it on the side of a building, you'd be like, oh, that's Jason Hook's guitar. And I kind of wanted that. And so I was working with an artist friend of mine and we went through many renditions of what to put on there. I'm sort of a self-professed military history enthusiast. So I study all the great conflicts and the strategies you know, and so I thought, let's do something military looking.
Mm.
And that's kind of where that came from. I mean, I can't lie. If you look at Matthias Jabs from
Scorpion.
Scorpions, he kind of has an Explorer that has a couple stripes coming across one of the upper horns right there. So I can't remember if I was influenced by that or not, but it kind of sparked the idea like, okay, like stripes crossing the body. It's not brand new stuff, but I just thought I got to try to get something now at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's in your videos. You can see it in all the pictures and stuff. So I was just curious if you were just paying homage to the troops or what the deal was with that.
Oh yeah, always. I mean, I'm a big military supporter. And like, I mean, I have like 40 Explorers. This one's up here now. This was one of the ones I did myself in the very beginning, like
Mm.
hand painted.
No kidding. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And we pulled the front pickup out here, put a piece of ebony in there, and then and a guy build on two extra frets, one volume knob. It's just a crusher. And then all this is scooped out so that I can get up higher, up to here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it has been your kind of your calling card. People knowing that's your guitar.
Yes. I mean, it kind of worked, right?
Yeah.
It kind of worked, and it's true to my heart because I am, a strong military supporter and a history enthusiast.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to be here Riff Fest coming up on September 28th with the guys from Godsmack. Who are going to be touring on the Dark Side of the Brain is out, but the vinyl and everything comes out in October. And we could talk all day long about Killer Dwarfs and Coney Hatch and Kick Axe and bands like that, but I know you don't have time. So
Well, it's I was in Killer Doors for like 10 minutes for what
Were
it's
you
worth.
really?
I was, yes. Love those guys. Great guys.
Great guys, yeah.
And back in the early 90s, they were looking for a guitar player and I got the gig and I did one tour with them and then went back to California. But I didn't know if you knew that. That's why I had to say because you had mentioned them.
I when I was a kid and I wanted to be on the radio and I'd work at the bar before school Monday and Tuesdays and I watched the videos and I saw that video, Keep the Spirit Alive. And I'm like, the good dude spinning around in his head and everything. And then about 10 years ago, I was back home in Buffalo and one of my friends texted me. He's like, hey, Russ Dwarf is in my bar if you want to come by. And next thing you know, we're singing Jackson Brown songs and becoming best friends. So
Nice. Love it.
no, Russ is great. Russ and Daryl, great people. So we could talk all day long about Canadian rock and roll, but thank you so much for your time, dude. We'll see you here coming up at the end of September.
Can't wait.